I had like a record where I got like 59 outbound set closes in a month. I made like it was like 19K that month, like 19K and some change. I make this claim that I made 19K in a single month, but it's not actually true because my best month ever was actually 26K. Managing multiple offers at once it's a craft and it's a skill. You really have to be really good with your time management. If you're not good with your time management, you don't know how to organize your calendar, then like, yeah, that's going to be like next to impossible. It's going to water down all your results. But from working with multiple offers in the past, like the health and wellness company I did, leading 4 appointment setting teams at once, each one of those teams had about 10 appointment setters on it. It's something that I'm like very used to at this point now where I can lead and manage multiple teams at once. And I'm like, hey, like this is just what I do.
Okay, guys, welcome back to another video. Inside this video, we got something very, very special. In front of me, I have one of the highest veteran appointment setters in the space, Mr. Matt Moore. And if you don't know Matt, okay, he's at least personally for me, he has the record for the most closed sets in a month. I think he has 59 closed sets in a month. He was the head setter on Cole Gordon's team. He's done 19,000 in a single month as an appointment setter, which for me was like unheard of. And right now he's leading a setter team doing around $2 million a month. So welcome in, Matt Moore.
Yeah, what's going on, Ethan? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm doing really good. Funny thing too is like how we met was pretty unconventional too, because we I was working on Cole's offer as well, and we were at a an offsite for one of the company retreats. And I met your boy Nicholas in like the lobby. He was like wandering around. He's like, he's waiting for you. And I don't even know who you are. And I'm like, I grabbed Nicholas and I'm like, hey, like, want to go to the bar? Let's just hang out. And he's like, sure. And we're sitting at the bar, and then he gets a call from you saying that like you just landed and you're gonna walk from the airport down to like wherever we're staying at, which is like a 10-mile walk with your suitcase and all this stuff. Do you remember that?
Dude, it was hot out there in Arizona that day, let me tell you.
Yeah. What were you thinking? That was like,
Dude, yeah, man, I was listening to a lot of books at the time. I had to sit in the flight for like 4 or 5 hours, and like I was like, I need to get some steps in today. I need to get walking, I need to get my blood flowing. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna walk to the event. Like, so I walked out of the airport, down the sidewalk right out of there, and it took me like 2 hours to get from from where the airport was to that hotel. Yeah, and I did have a backpack with some gear in it. I had like a suit over my shoulder and I had like a suitcase. So like people probably like saw me and were like, what is this guy doing? Like, I looked like I just got kicked out of my like girlfriend's house or something like that. Like, so it was pretty funny. And yeah, I threw some AirPods in. Don't wear the AirPods now, apparently, with all the gurus telling you all the nonsense about that. But I did that walk, listened to I think I listened to Built to Last for like the second or third time on that walk, I'm pretty sure. That's like a really solid one by Jim Collins. But I was obsessed with like listening to books and going for walks outside whenever I was like in between sales calls, in between meetings. Like that was kind of like my thing. And because I sat on the plane all day that day, I was like, I gotta go walk. I gotta go do something. I'm losing my mind.
yeah, you definitely walked in there with like this air of confidence. How like, fuck yeah, I just did that. I like shook your hand. I'm like, who is this guy? What does he do?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I want to do on this call, dude, just like give everyone as much like resources and value as possible to succeed is really outline what you've done up to this point because it's my understanding you've been in like 10, 12, 13 different roles over your career, which has lasted years. And each one of those roles, you have taken an experience, learning, growth to get you up to this really pivotal point in your career, doing like 30, 40, $1,000 months as a setter manager on multiple different offers too. So, I mean, if you want to run into that, we can really start from like very beginning of your like story. Like what were you even doing before you even landed into your first job and what motivated you to even get into like this space?
Yeah, man. Well, first off, it was 14 roles, but who's counting? But yeah, man, what I was doing before this was I had a lot of like, around town jobs. Like, for a time I was a construction worker. I worked at a camp for a while. I worked at a bakery once, which that bakery job didn't last long. But my primary thing that I was doing was bartending right before I got into appointment setting. And I was bartending on like, the more popular days of the week, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings. And then throughout the week, there was like nothing to do. And I'm not really one to like just like kind of like sit around and like play Xbox. Like that gets old crazy fast. So I wasn't going to sit around and do nothing. And I there was this guy that was cleaning the restaurant one day, and I asked him a question. I was like, dude, like, where did you like? Because like he was just like a construction kind of dude, like he was like a hometown kind of guy. And I was like, what do you do? Like, how did you get this job here with the restaurant? And I kind of like investigated a little bit further into like what he was doing, and he was like, yeah, man, I actually I found this company online and I paid him 10 grand. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I paid him 10 grand and they taught me how to start a disinfecting company for like warehouses and restaurants. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, yeah, it's kind of like a business in a box kind of thing. And basically they just showed me how to find clients. They showed me what kind of gear I needed, how to price jobs. And I was like, dude, that sounds kind of cool. And like what went through my mind was not that I wanted to start like a disinfecting business, but I was like, dude, it sounds cool to be whatever on the other end of selling that, offering that services for people. I was like, that sounds really cool. How it enabled this guy to like kind of have this job. And he gave me the name of the company. I reached out to them through Facebook, and I kind of like badgered them all. Like they're Ryan and Liberty was the two owners' names, and I messaged them on like Facebook, like and hounded them about like, hey, like how are you guys? Like what are you guys doing over there? Like do you need any help selling your stuff? And like in my mind, I was like, I'm going for like a closer role. I'm gonna go sell stuff. And they're like, oh, actually, a spot just opened for an appointment setter, and I was like appointment setter is like, what are you talking about? I want to do sales. And they were like, yeah, like that's what an appointment setting role is. And I was like, well, like, what is it? And they were like, it's kind of like the prelude to doing the sales call. Like there's someone that needs to jump in there, walk them through getting a meeting onto the calendar, and then the closer closes that deal. And I was like, so like I would just be like setting appointments all day. And they were like, yeah, you set appointments for sales calls. And I was like, all right, I'll check that out. And so I got my first appointment setting role that way, literally just by messaging the owners like a whole bunch of times. And at the time, I didn't realize like any follow up strategies. So I was like super, like, I was just like super annoying about it. I was just, like, I'm surprised that they even like responded to me. And so I set appointments there for about 3 months. And then surprisingly, COVID happened. Right. And when COVID happened, they told me, oh, hey, Matt, like, we're gonna have to shut things down. Like, we're not gonna run ads anymore. There's not gonna be any more leads. It's like, so you can work your pipeline for a little bit and then everything's done. And I was like, man, that sucks. And then like a couple weeks later into COVID, they shut down the restaurants. And then I'm like sitting at home, no bartending job, no like appointment setting job. And I was like, man, this sucks. And then they called me back and they said, hey, Matt, we just reinvented the company. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, we're going to start this service for COVID disinfecting services. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, we're going to teach people how to do the disinfecting businesses, but it's going to be a COVID disinfecting business now. And we're going to teach people how to start that because now it's 10 times more popular. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, let's go. Right. So I continued on with them for another 3 months. And from there, I got an opportunity to work with a guy. Rob Bailey was kind of like he was like the king of database reactivation, right? And what it did was it helped people. The service that we sold was to digital marketing agencies, right? And we showed them how to get more return on ad spend from the leads that they already had by just getting a better squeeze on the lead, making sure they were hitting everybody, tech sequence, reactivations of old lists, like all these different methods. And so I got to soak in a lot of information when I worked with Rob Bailey and learn how to get a lot out of the leads given to me, right? Just because we sold a 10K program around helping people do exactly that, right? And so, for that company, I was there for about 8 months. I was making like 5 to like 7K a month, and like it was pretty decent money, right? I was like pretty satisfied with that, right? From there, what I did was I went on to a multifamily real estate offer. And, what I did from there was I was setting appointments still, right? And what the service was it was to help people start a real estate investment portfolio, right? And they would, help these students get a property in less than 1 year, or they would keep on working with them. And we got to a point where we had sold too many students into it, where the owners were like, "Hey guys, like we have to stop selling this because we're not going to be able to fulfill on all this if we keep on selling more people." And so I was like sitting there, I was like, "What the heck, man?" I was like making like 6 to 8K a month on that offer, and I was like, "This one was going better than the last one. It was like stepping up each time." And then like fulfillment blowing up. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what even is that? Have you ever, Ethan, have you ever been on an offer where like the fulfillment got blown up and you had to like jump ship and find something new?
I've heard tons of stories about it, dude. And like
Yeah.
offers where like they just couldn't fulfill it. And the company had to do refunds because they're like, we can't, process this or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's what happened with that company. Typically, if it's like a really great service and a lot of people are buying it really, really fast, the fulfillment can blow up sometimes, right? So from there, I went on to an offer that helped people start Airbnb businesses. And I didn't really last too long there. I was only making 5 to 6K a month. So I was a little bit dissatisfied that I was earning less than what I was originally before. And it was really tough at the time because generally people were looking to build passive income through these Airbnb businesses, and they either had no funds whatsoever to invest into themselves to even get a property to then rent out, let alone buy our coaching program as well, right? So it was a really tough battle there for high quality leads, and so I didn't stay there that long just because it was a dogfight, But I was still making like 5 to 6K a month, so I wasn't like my head wasn't coming out of the high ticket space. I was like, this is like I'm in there like swimwear. I was like, this is what I'm doing.
And
So
is that all like commission too? You didn't have a base on any of these
no
offers?
base. Yeah, no base on any of these offers that I've just gone over. Like I haven't had a base on any of those up to this point, right? So from there, from this next offer, I did have a base, and it was a sales training company. And I started out there as an appointment setter. I had like a $1,500 base or so, I think. That was like 6 years ago now, which in high ticket remote space time is like essentially the same timeline as when Noah got off the ark, So essentially, I was on that offer for about 6 months, and I went actually from setter to closer to a trainer. And so, I was making about 5 to 6K a month there as well as a setter. Got promoted to a closer. I was making like 12 to 15K a month there as a closer. And then I went to a coaching role where I was coaching the students that were coming into that program. Um, I spent a good time, like I would say a good amount of time there. It was about 6 months, but then I had a better opportunity come across my desk, which was a passive income for helping people build an ATM business, right? So we would come in, we'd set up this entire business, kind of a business in a box kind of thing, right? Where like we set up these 10 ATMs for people in 10 locations nearby them, and we would sell them that service, right? And that sold like hotcakes, man. Let me tell you, like
What on the offset, when that offer was presented to you, what was it about that offer that was like, oh, I need to jump ship and do this offer? Like, how'd you
yeah.
know?
Well, I knew because I knew if you're selling an offer that's a done for you service and they have a back end guarantee, that is so easy to sell. Like that is like one of the easiest kind of offers to sell. And the second thing there was that they didn't have any appointment setters on the team, and they had way too many leads. Right. So I was like, oh man, I can step into this thing and just like have a free, clear slate and like just do this thing. I was like, that's what I'm doing. And so that's why I had kind of like chose to jump in there. And I jumped in there first as a setter. I was making like about 8 to 10K a month there, which was amazing. It was the most money I'd ever made as an appointment setter. Then I went into a closing position where I was making like 18 to like 22K a month there as a closer. And from there, because I was the highest performing closer within the first like month and a half, they promoted me to the sales manager. And so I was the sales manager, geez, there for about like 3 months. And then guess what? We blew up the fulfillment. We sold too much of it again. And that's typically what like kind of like happens with those done for you offers. Very easy to sell, but then you have to scale up the fulfillment side of that company as fast as what the company is selling it as. And generally they don't keep up. Right. So from there, I was looking around and I had just been a sales team manager. And a lot of times people, once they get a sales team manager role, they're like, oh no, like I'm not going back to closing. Like I'm locked into sales manager life. And Cole Gordon was actually hiring appointment setters. And I was like, you know what? I was like, it'd be a lot of fun to go back to appointment setting because I preferred the lifestyle over closing. And I really enjoyed doing the role in general. And I was like, dude, I'm going to learn so much working for Cole. So I dove right in
What do
and
you
I
what do you mean by that? Like the lifestyle of setting versus closing? Like what was it that you preferred more about it?
Just like the flexibility in the schedule primarily. Like I got to decide when I was going to start working, when I was going to stop versus, as a closer, closing is great, don't get me wrong, but as a closer, there are certain calls that you open up your calendar for and you have to be there at those exact times. Whereas like if I wake up one day and I'm just like, I'm not feeling it, like I'm going to go for a walk or I'm going to go for a hike or I'm going to go to the gym and then I'm going to start working, I could, right? And so it's a lot more flexibility in the role, which I really enjoyed. Secondarily to that, it was a little bit less pressure too, because in those calls as a closer, your income is up to you. Like if you close that call, boom, you're getting paid. Versus the pressure's a little bit off of you if you're setting appointments because you're setting like four, five, six appointments for several other closers. And if they close, like awesome, you're getting your commission. So it's a little bit less pressure, a little bit less stress. And so I was looking for something that was going to be less pressure and less stress from what I was just experiencing as a sales manager. So I was like, oh, it's going to be a little bit easier, more flexibility is like the main two things.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So then enter Cole. He gives you this
Yep.
opportunity.
Yep. So then I jumped onto Cole Gordon's team, and I like to say I don't know if you know. Do you know Jake Ferry?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Jake Ferry, he said this line to me one time. He was like, "Oh, it's the best thing since sliced bread." So it's like one of my favorite quotes now. But working with like Cole Gordon's team as an appointment setter there was like the best thing since sliced bread. I loved it. I had like a record where I got like 59 outbound set closes in a month. I made like it was like 19K that month, like 19K and some change. And kept going on there for about a year as an appointment setter. It was actually 13 months as an appointment setter there. And I actually, it's kind of funny because I make this claim that I made 19K in a single month, but it's not actually true because my best month ever was actually 26K. But the thing that still makes me furious to this day is that the financing team, like 2 months before I stopped doing appointment setting for Cole, they changed the format of once a month payment to two times a roll payroll. So it was like bi-weekly. And so that month I got like two 13K paychecks and it was like, I made like 26K that month, but it was on two separate paychecks. I was pissed. I was like, come on, can't you just like take this money back and give it to me back on one paycheck? They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you're a lunatic. So, I only have a paycheck that says just 19K, but what I truly have made in a single month as an appointment setter was 26K. It was just on those freaking lousy two pay stubs separated out. But,
If they were
anyways,
and if they were breaking that down into two 13 payments, how'd you land on the 19?
yeah, well, so because the night before that, originally they were just doing 1 month's paycheck at a time,
Sure.
and then they switched to two paychecks a single month, right? So
Okay.
essentially, before it was like we always got paid on like the fifth from last month's commissions and base pay. So I would get this paycheck on the fifth each month. It was sick. Like got my 19K, and I was like, this is amazing. Like I'm just setting appointments, and I'm making like 19K a month. And then, 3, 4 months go by and I get a whole bunch of account recurring like sales like rolling over from each other, like kind of like a snowball effect. Like, like you get a lot of follow-up sales start happening and follow-up cash coming in. And then they switched to bi-weekly payments. And so I got two pay stubs. It was like they were paying on like the 10th and like the 26th. And so I got two pay stubs for that month. And it was the 13K and 13K. I
Okay.
was like, guys, like screwing me over here. I was so pissed. Um, so from there, what I did was I actually got a coaching role from Cole Gordon where I was coaching the students coming into his program. And it was like a little bit over 3,300 people that went through his program that I was coaching one on one, like, one on ones, group coaching calls, like helping these people land jobs. And it was a lot of fun. Like I really found a lot of inspiration in being able to really truly work with these people, help them land jobs in the high ticket space. And it got to a point where it was like easy. Like it was like easy to help people get these jobs. It was easy to help them overcome these things. And so I just really enjoyed that role. And when I was coaching, I was making like about like 18K a month as a coach then, which was like really exceptional for like a coach in the high ticket space. Generally, they don't earn that much, right? But I was grooving it out there. I spent about like 14 months there. Then I left Cole Gordon's team to work with him on a portfolio consulting company that it was like a health and wellness kind of offer. And that company was doing about 3 million to 3.5 million a month. There's four appointment setting teams, and I was the outbound director for all four appointment setting teams. So I had like a little bit over 30 appointment setters under me, and a manager for each one of those offers. And that was a blast. Like I really like found a groove there because I was able to help multiple setters on each one of these teams grow and level up on all kinds of fronts. And then on top of that, it was a lot of fun to work with the setter managers as well and kind of showed them what worked well for me and like past opportunities that I've been with, like Rob Bailey, helping them get the most out of their ad spend, as a sales manager before and past offers, showing them what worked well there. Like, and so that was like a lot of fun doing that offer as well. Um, from the health and wellness offer that I went on to another company. It was a fitness offer for women. I've got about like 20 appointment setters over there. That's something I'm currently still doing now. And, they do about like 2 to like 3 million a month in sales now. And that offer is a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing that as well. Then I recently just acquired a new role where I'm also an outbound director for them, where they do a ton of digital marketing agency services. Haven't even fully dived into fully all aspects of that company, but it's huge. And then lastly, I opened up Setter to Closer, to specifically help appointment setters one-on-one go from either like, hey, I don't even know what appointment setting is, or hey, like I've been an appointment setter for a year and I haven't even made my first 10K paycheck yet. So that's kind of where things all rolled out to today.
So a lot to unpack there. Okay. We got the whole biography just just down on paper. So how do so you manage two offers right now as a setter manager. Does one offer not take up like all of your time? Like how do you find time to do both? And then, this like third thing too.
Yeah, man. So there's a lot of very specific principles to this. Like, for instance, one thing is as a setter team manager, Mondays is not a day that you want to spend a tremendous amount of time bottlenecking all of your appointment setters. So Monday is typically a day that I'll quality control everything that happened last week, right? So like that's one of the first things off the bat. Point two there would be that managing multiple offers at once it's a craft and it's a skill. You really have to be really good with your time management. If you're not good with your time management, you don't know how to organize your calendar, then like yeah, that's going to be like next to impossible. It's going to water down all your results. But from working with multiple offers in the past, like the health and wellness company I did, leading 4 appointment setting teams at once, each one of those teams had about 10 appointment setters on it. It's something that I'm like very used to at this point now, where I can lead and manage multiple teams at once. And I'm like, hey, like this is just what I do.
Okay. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Can you go into like, because I think when you hopped on really that ATM offer and you went from setter to closer to like sales team manager, that was your first offer where like you kind of grew your skills up a lot and you made the most like money initially until like they kind of capped out. What was sort of like your attitude going into either that offer or really just any of these offers? Like what was your kind of mindset attitude going into any one of these opportunities?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing is that I would say there's one thing that I do differently than any other appointment setter in the high ticket space, and that is actually follow up, right? Like for instance, like my 59 outbound set close month, almost half of those were all from follow up from months past. So if you're really, I go over a 3-prong follow up system in my course, and if you're using a system, a process, one that you'll actually follow through with, it'll put you head and shoulders above like anybody else when it comes to appointment setting. And one thing very specifically that I did was that I would save a document of investors. So, for instance, when I was on the multifamily real estate offer, I had built up people that had purchased that program there, but I saved their contact information because they were a client of mine. I had done business with them, right? And so I had saved their contact information. And when I went into that Airbnb business, I also sold some of those same people that I sold the real estate offer. I sold them the Airbnb business. And so then from there, when I stepped onto the ATM offer, I had this pipeline of people that had A, bought the real estate offer from me, B, bought the Airbnb offer from me, or C, bought both of them from me. So when I stepped onto the passive income offer for ATMs, right? It was like I already had a pipeline of clients and potential prospects that would be interested in a service like this. So like in the first week, I just started calling up all those people. And it was like the first month or two where I had like cracked like 8, 10K in my first month there as an appointment setter. And they're like, oh man, we got to move this guy into like a closer. When they put me into a closer role, I continued to do the same thing. And I was like top dog on that closer team for like a month and a half before they just put me into the sales manager role from there. So a really big key to that was taking really good care of all the clients that I had worked with for like the last year. So it wasn't just like, hey, this is what I'm doing here. It was kind of like a pathway that I was following with real estate investing, like Airbnb investing, like, ATM business investing, and so there was a lot of people that fell into the same exact kind of blocks there that it just made sense for.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anyone do that where they like store leads
Yeah.
in a little cubby somewhere for future sales.
Totally. I mean, that's because like the way that I approach working with people is that every time I have a conversation with somebody on the phone, it's the start of a business relationship with them. Versus a lot of appointment setters are like churn and burn on these leads. You know what I mean? Like just dial these leads and move on to the next day and call all the brand newest ones. Where I had a much more nurturing approach to it. And the reason for that was from working with Rob Bailey years prior to that. There was a lot of things I learned on follow up and how to get the most out of those leads from working with Rob. And so it kind of enabled me to the next couple of trail of offers I went to have those skill sets and that knowledge of being like, oh, hey, like I want to save these leads and like have them around. Like these are people that are investors. They're making multiple millions a year. Maybe if I work with another offer in the future that's similar to this, I can call them up and they're going to want this too. So that's kind of was my thought process there and it worked very well. And then funnily enough, there was actually like three or four people that I even sold Cole Gordon's program to as well that were like working in the office. They had like an Airbnb now. They had a multi-family real estate building. They had like a couple ATMs and they were like doing those kind of side hustles on the thing. And then they had their office job and they're like, yeah, I just don't want to leave my like, my primary source of income right now. And I was like, dude, you should get into remote closing and do what I do. And they were like, what? Like, I could get into that. And I was like, yeah, man, like I can help you do that. Jump in here. This is going to be your go-to, but I'll answer any questions you have along the way. And I kind of just guided them and held their hand through that process and helped them break through into the high ticket space.
Was that during your coaching during Cole's program, like as you were a coach?
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, when I first started with Cole, I was setting appointments, right? So I reached out to all those people I'd sold into past programs. And as an appointment setter, I set them, they closed. And then when they were in the program, I also nurtured them, answered questions, supported them. So it wasn't like, where most appointment setters set the deal, the closer takes it over, it closes, and then the setter never talks to those people again. It goes back to that same nurturing the lead. Like if you're of the understanding that you're going to build a long lasting relationship with that prospect from the second you get on the phone with them, you're going to speak with a lot of forward pacing language. Like, oh, yeah, man, we're really particular about who we're willing to work with one on one because we do this with you for a very long time. So if this isn't something you're serious about, we'll just give you your money back and kick you out of the program. And I was completely okay with telling people that because I meant it.
So relationships, like
Yeah.
it sounds like you very much put relationships first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Would you say that's like a tenet of how you do business?
Yeah. Overall, it serves you well in the high ticket space to whenever especially if you're ending things, like let's say if you're leaving an offer to end things well, right? Because like to give you an example, do you know Aaron Martinez?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. So I worked with Aaron Martinez like hand in hand on Rob Bailey's offer, which was like the third offer that I was ever on in the high ticket space. And so when I ended things well there, which it's a practice that only the top 1% have, like most anybody can start things well, but a lot of people end things with slamming the door on the way out, causing a lot of drama, making a lot of chaos. It hurts your reputation. Nobody wants to then bring someone on that has a reputation of doing that kind of thing. And so I really leaned into very hard of ending things well. And it served me well because I then went on from working with Rob Bailey and Aaron Martinez was there. Well, guess what? I saw him over on Cole Gordon's team and I worked with him there. And then I saw him over on the health and wellness company that I was working with for a while. So like in my 7 years of working in this space, there's one guy that I've worked with on three different offers already with three different businesses, right? So like your name and your reputation carries with you very far as you go throughout this space because you're going to find that there's some similar people that will be on the next offer that you're already on.
Yeah. I actually had the pretty similar. Aaron got me on Cole's offer too. Like,
Oh, nice.
because I knew Aaron back when he was running an agency solo and I was running an agency too. And we were both in real estate. So we just connected, said, seeing if we could help each other out in our agencies. And he calls me like a year after we connected, maybe two. And he's like, how's agency life? And I'm like, dude, it fucking sucks. And he's like, "Hey, maybe you want to come over to like this team and just like focus instead of doing like a million different things in your agency, just do like one thing really well and just get paid for it." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Sure, why not?" And so then he popped me on Cole's offer. Um, so
Do you
I
remember? Do you remember that like black banner with like the green like matrixy color on it on Aaron's Facebook when he was like doing agencies for real estate agents and he had it in his course talking about how to put that like label there.
yeah.
That was like one of my favorite trainings by Aaron. I still practice that to this day.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely has some knowledge to drop, dude.
Yeah,
He's got some good
totally.
stuff. So if there's someone watching this, listening to this that's looking to get into this space now, two questions I have, which is like, has this space changed at all since you've gotten started like 6 years ago? And if so, like I mean, like how would you approach it for someone who's just completely fresh?
Yeah. A lot of changes over the last several years. I would say right now, there was a big boom for a time. I know you know because digital marketing agencies was like a huge boom for everybody to get into like remote work and stuff. And right now, I would say there's like a huge boom for like appointment setters because with appointment setting, it's like the fastest, easiest way to get a remote job online right now is through appointment setting, right? Like there's more businesses hiring appointment setters than ever right now. So it's the easiest to get one of these jobs. And it's one of the fastest ways to kind of do on the side part time as like a side hustle to then replace your income and then go into this full time as well. Right. So like I would say like if you were thinking about jumping into the high ticket space, like I would start with appointment setting. It's going to be a lower barrier to entry, easier to get in. Generally, also, it's harder to start with closing because, a lot of times business owners want the closers to have experience closing other deals before in the past before bringing them on. So you can gain a lot of knowledge as a appointment setter that can then lead you into getting a closing role, right? So it makes more sense. It's like the entry level, like, starter kind of position in the high ticket space right now. It's not like starting your whole business, which like, man, like my hat's off to you with like you jumped in the high ticket space with I'm going to start an online business. Like that is a much taller order to fill than like starting out with appointment setting and learn everything from the ground up. You were like starting at the top and learning everything top down. You know what I mean? Which is a much harder thing to do. And so I would say that, YouTube's a university, obviously. Like there's a lot of free information out there. But if you wanted like a faster, like simpler, easier way with like all the information in one spot, there's like a lot of different services out there that can help you start out with appointment setting. Like, I have one of them. There's like a couple other names out there in the space that I could think of that also help people get started in the space with appointment setting. In my group specifically, though, we have a lot of training around the interview process, knowing which companies that you should and shouldn't work with, and then also just like recruitment services to help you actually like land a job,
Yeah.
because most of the time what I see is most people's fear is, well, what if I like get into this space and I can't find a job? And I'm like, there's so many jobs out here, we're like drowning in them right now. Like there's no way that somebody couldn't jump into the high ticket space in 2025 and not find a job unless you had no clue what you were doing.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that. Like what does a person actually have to have like in them in order to be able to do this like successfully?
They have to have that dog in them, man. No, you don't have to have that dog in you in order to get into this. Really, what I would say is like one thing that's the most important is finding an offer that's like specifically important to you or something that you might potentially buy. Like, let's say you were really interested in like health and fitness. Well, there's tons of businesses out there that offer services and programs that help people out with health and fitness. So if that was something you were passionate about, you could go sell that service as a closer or an appointment setter. Or let's say you were really interested about real estate investing and you're like, yeah, I want to learn more about that, but then like I also want to do it myself. Well, why don't you just go be an appointment setter for a company that teaches that as a service and you can go through their product on your own because obviously they want the sales reps to know what it is that they're selling. So you could go through that course and that information yourself, attend the calls. yourself, learn about it, and then implement it in your own life, right? So, like, if you wanted to learn passive income through different streams, multiple sources of income, making money online, like literally, there's companies online that teach you how to make money online, right? Like AKA setter to closer, right? We literally teach you how to make money online through appointment setting, right? So there's all these different avenues of ways that you could learn more on things that specifically interest you. So one place I actually recommend to go to is if you go to Meta Ads Library and you were to type in anything that you were specifically interested in, like let's say you were interested in career coaching or life coaching or fitness coaching, you could just type that into that search bar and you could see all the thousands of ads that people are running in the high ticket space. And if you see that they're running ads, that means they have warm inbound leads with people selecting those ads, asking for more information, giving their number, name, and email address. And that means that they have appointment setters and closers on the other end of those ads.
Genius. Yeah, 100%. And I've said that a few times before. It's like, it's right there, guys. Just like Google it, Google it and it's there. It's not that hard. Find it. You can find them. Anytime you're on Instagram, you see an ad, just like
Yep.
save that ad or go, apply to their product and get connected with someone, see if they're hiring. They're
Yeah,
usually
man.
always hiring setters, or if like they could always benefit from having a setter, a better setter.
Totally.
Speaking of better setters, you've been an opportunity where you've managed quite a few people, a lot of different setters. What would you say are the traits, attitudes of like the really, really good ones versus the guys who were just kind of showing up and making their money?
Yeah. The best of the best, the first and foremost thing is they're always interested in learning, growth, and development. If you're someone that is like always constantly in that kind of position where you're like, hey, there's always something new to learn. I'm interested in growth and development at all times. Well, that's exactly like what the high ticket space is. It's an informational coaching consulting space, right? So if that's something that you're personally interested in, is always growing throughout your whole entire life, well, those people get onto offers, and when there's new systems and new processes, those people conquer that challenge like it's nothing. But the people that have resistance to change and learning new things, typically they don't do the best, right? Because they don't adapt to the new systems and the processes fast enough. And I don't mean that like there's 360 like changes in the boat happening each day. No, I mean like simple things like, hey guys, instead of sending this text, we're going to send this text instead, like things like that. So that would be the very first and foremost thing is learning, growth, and development. The second thing is someone that's interested in creating a healthy team atmosphere. So if like that isn't in the forefront of your mind when you're joining one of these high ticket appointment setting teams, whether you realize it or not, if you're coming in and you're being a neutral impact on the team, you're actually being a negative impact on the team by being neutral, right? Like this is a very heavily positive atmosphere. People really care about helping each other out in this space. And so if you come in and you're not interested in creating that healthy team atmosphere, you're going to be a negative impact and draw on the company, right? So typically the highest performers, they're always interested in learning, growth, development. They're always interested in creating a healthy team atmosphere. And then lastly, they're all leaders. Specifically, if you're like somebody that, you wanted to be a leader, you want to help other people change their lives, you want to help other people out of these tough, difficult situations, then generally the space would be for you, right? Because what's happening here is, let's say you were to fall onto an ad, Ethan, and this ad is like, we help you get rock hard abs for life. And you were like, oh man, like, I don't know, this is a little bit intimidating. I don't know if I want to book this call with these people, but I do want some more information on how they do it. And you give your email, your phone number, and you get like this email with some information. And then you get a call one day. You're like, huh, like who's this person calling me? You answer the phone, like, hey, who's this? And then there's an appointment setter on the other end of that line. And they have that conversation with you. They help you build that confidence and they help you go to making a decision on actually having a call with the company and sitting down with a closer and figuring out if this is something clearly that A, they want to move forward with, or B, this is not something that they want. Awesome. You did your job as an appointment setter. Your goal really is just to help someone lead them to a decision of this is a clear no or it's a clear yes. Right. And so essentially, if you have leadership qualities or tendencies about you, you're interested in learning to grow more as a leader for yourself and the people around you in your own life, then like typically that's like another indicator that you'd probably be pretty good at this.
Fantastic. Okay. And with the first point you made, the self-development and growth, do you think sales skews younger, like in their 20s, because younger people can more easily like learn, grow, and adapt, whereas older people are more like stuck in their ways?
I think it's more so based off the person, right? So, like to give you a story, there's this guy. His name is Mike. Mike is in his 40s, and he'd been a truck driver for the last 20 years, like driving a truck. He's never made a dime online, like you know what I mean. Like he doesn't know anything about the remote high ticket space. And I actually called him. It was January 1st, I think it was 2022. I gave him a call because he had opted in to learn more information on how Cole Gordon helped people get into the high ticket remote space. I gave this guy a call and he was in a different mindset than most other people. He had those three qualities that I was just talking about with you on the phone. And I told him, I was like, Mike, like you're somebody that would probably fit very well into this space. I think you should really have a meeting with one of these people. They can walk you through a presentation of how this works in more detail. And I was like, use the cheesy Chris Voss. Like, would you be against a conversation like that? And he was like, yeah, man, let's do it. And so he actually jumped into Cole's program and I one-on-one mentored him. I like walked him through the whole thing. And I helped him get a job on an Airbnb offer that I was really well connected with because the sales manager there, I had actually trained him from setter to setter manager within that Airbnb offer. He had bought, one-on-one mentorship from me for a little while. And so I had a pretty good in there. I knew the setter manager there. So I was like, hey, man, I was like, there's this guy, Mike. Like, you should bring him onto your appointment setting team. He's amazing. He's incredible. I was like, the thing is, he's got to start part time right now. So Mike started part time. And in his first 3 weeks, he made $6,300 just setting appointments after work. Like, he drove a truck all day, got home, and then set appointments for a couple hours and went to bed. He did that for 3 weeks and made $6,300. That was definitely an exception. To do $6,300 part time in his first 3 weeks ever was definitely like an amazing story, right? And so on his third week, he quit his trucking job and he went into remote high ticket appointment setting full time. And then he got promoted from setter to closer and then from closer to finance deal, the finance deal team where they kind of like would write everybody off from like the last like kind of objection point. And Mike has like completely changed his life, and he was in his 40s doing this, right? So like you could be somebody that's in any age bracket at all and do this, but I would just say that it's really dependent on where you're at in the journey. If you're someone that's like interested in learning growth and development, then like this would probably be for you.
Right, and that's the thing. I just think like so many young people are like just naturally like they just know that they don't know anything, so they just know they want to learn. Whereas it's just like more natural for older people to be like, oh, like I've been doing this, it's okay, like I'm gonna keep doing this. It's just how I operate. So it's you're right. It's like not so much the age, it is the person. I just think on average, more older people just are happy being set in their ways.
Yeah, yeah, I could agree with that.
Right. Okay. What would you have to say, I guess, to anyone like Mike who might be like on the fence, kind of teetering and tottering whether or not they should like kind of move into this space or not, and how they should approach it?
Yeah, I mean, fastest, easiest way, like, is going to be to probably jump into setter to closer. Like if you just kind of wanted like the blueprint on how to do this, the insider information, like the difference between a good appointment setting role and a bad appointment setting role, like where to find the jobs, like the list goes on and on, right? But if you wanted the fastest, easiest pathway, I'd say jump into setter to closer. If you're okay with, having it on the back burner and like, maybe spending a few more years doing what you're doing now, then like go through YouTube. There's like a ton of free stuff on YouTube. You could eventually get to the point to where you could do this completely for free without any coaching, without any training, without any courses, without any group calls, without any support at all. You could totally do it. It would just take you a lot longer than if you had a blueprint of it laid out in front of you, access to recruitment lines, access to scripts, access to, people that have been there before and that can show you the way. So really, that's the kind of two options you have is you either kind of have Google and YouTube, or you kind of have different coaching and consulting programs, which there's only one that I know of that completely focuses on appointment setting, and it's setter to closer.
Well, guys, if you guys want more information on Setter to Closer, how much it costs, what's inside, then click the first link down below, and you can get that information all set up. Matt, thank you so much, man, for the time and the information, dude. It's been super helpful.
Yeah, man. Good hanging out with you. I'll catch you later.